Well, hello. I'm in Christine's backyard. I'm not on my porch looking over Schmong Lake today. I'm having a cup of tea. I'm a little celebrating a lot today because I'm very excited. I just paid off what I owed to create my latest self-publishing book. Big deal, actually. So I want to talk about, should you self-publish your next outdoor venture? Good question, really good question. So I'm going to go over some goods, bads, and uglies. All right. First, we got to start off with, I've got 19 books out so far. 17 of them have been done through a main publisher, mostly Firefly, one of the largest in Canada. Most of them are bestsellers. Most of them are guidebooks or how-to tips and tricks for camping. And about 4 years ago, maybe 5, I dipped into the self-publishing world by creating this book here, What's Around Algonquin. Okay, and why? Well, a whole bunch of reasons that I'll get into. One of the main ones is that I didn't think Firefly would actually publish a book like that. In fact, they really weren't interested in publishing a book like that. That's not really their style. It's about my buddy and I going around Algonquin doing something called the Meanest Link. Insane trip, never do it. It's about the history of the park, the future of the park, things like that. So I tried it and invested in it, and it did really well. I paid off in less than a year, and then I made money since. Okay, so not a lot of money, but I made money. And then just about a month and a half ago, I self-published another book, number 2. Another Bend in the River, the Happy Camper's memoir. Once again, I don't think the main publisher would have touched that. It's about me growing up with high anxiety and dealing with that, dealing with anxiety, depression, going into nature to help cure that. All the jobs I had to make sure I kept out in the outdoors, went into outdoor ed, fish and wildlife rehab, went into endless jobs, always outdoors. And it's all about also growing up in the outdoor world and seeing the changes and what I've seen throughout the time, that wisdom sort of idea, or I don't know if it was wisdom, but that sort of idea. Stories about portage etiquette and how things are changing, and should you have a double blade, should you have a single blade, that sort of thing. I also put sort of sidebars on a whole bunch of little tips and tricks I learned along the way, like how to make good camp coffee, how to make true bannock, how to remove a tick from your private areas, things like that. So yeah, it was a book that I've always wanted to write in my head, and then I just splurted it out after actually we were all locked down because of COVID. All of a sudden, when I was able to go back out into the woods to go canoeing, I came back and just spilled it all on a page. Right. So, let's get into the money first of all. Like, when you do a book with a publisher, main publisher, they generally give you an advance. Not much of an advance, maybe $1,500. Maybe I think the most I've ever got was $5,000 on one book because it was going to be a solid book to write. And that advance, don't get all excited with an advance, because then when you start making money through your royalties, they take that advance away, right? You have to pay it back. No, you don't pay it back, but it comes out of your royalties, right? So I got to say, the one book, what's the one book? Oh my gosh, Wilderness Pleasures. I haven't even paid off the advance yet. It didn't do well at all. Other books did really well, but that one didn't do well at all. So good I did that through the publisher, because they had to deal with that. They thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea. It wasn't. So we both lost. Now, I'm going off on tangent. I got to keep this focused because it's a really good topic to talk about. So where does the money go into when you're self-publishing? Well, that's the thing. It's you, Kevin Callan Books. Okay? So if things go wrong, good luck to you. And it's very stressful. So you have to do it right. So what I mean by that is, I invested money for this latest book, over $6,000, probably $6,800, I think, if I did the math, because I invested in the editing and designing. That's really important. So I got a proof editor, Katie from Paddling Magazine. She knows my style. She's edited my stuff a lot, and she read the book and made some changes of where the book should go. Then I gave it to Kathy, my main editor, has edited my stuff for years, and subcontracted her to actually edit the book. And then I also got Jill, the designer that's designed a whole bunch of my books in the past as well. Really all good friends of mine, and gave them money, and they deserved it. They did an amazing job. So then it goes to IngramSpark, and that's who I chose to go through. There's a whole bunch of self-publishing ways. Amazon has their own. IngramSpark is based in the United States, and they have printing in the UK and everywhere else. It's like Canada, actually. And what happens is it's print on demand. So you load up your book with them. You pay them some money. It doesn't cost much, like $50. Sometimes you get a free trial, and then they take a cut. Not much of a cut though. So what happens is they print on demand. They get you in Amazon, but also they get you into small brick and mortar libraries and also bookstores. Something I believe in. So that's why I didn't go right to Amazon, because I just didn't want to do that. You'd be a fool not to go in and have your books in Amazon. I'm not saying that, but they will distribute them more widely. Okay? All right. I'm going off again on tangent. Gosh darn it. All right. Yeah, I got that covered. I got notes. Was it a success? Well, yeah. If I've already paid off what I owed in a month and a half, that's pretty good. I mean, it became a bestseller. So if it didn't though, yeah, good luck at the bank, right? So, because I paid all that with a line of credit. And then you have to pay the interest on the line of credit. The longer you wait, the more interest it is. Or your credit card or whatever, or you're just in debt. Unless you have a whole bunch of savings away somewhere, which I don't know anybody that does. But let's go into, it was a success, yes. And I'll give you an example. It's really, really cool. Last night, a good friend of mine, it's a little loud back here. Good friend of mine, Cliff Jacobson, really well-known author and outdoor person in the United States. I mailed him a copy, good friend of mine, and he read it. And listen to this.
Kev, Cliff Jacobson. Hey, I just started reading your book, and I gotta tell you, it is absolutely superb. It is, in my estimation, the best thing you've ever written. It's wonderful. I couldn't put it down, though I am going to put it down now. I'm halfway through the book. But the writing it's excellent writing, the stories, your history. This is really a winner. This really is absolutely the best work that you've done. I just got done reading about Frodo. And
I had a ferret named Frodo. Anyway, to get a call from Cliff Jacobson, it didn't matter how much money I made. If I lost money, that phone call was worth doing the book. And that's why I really love self-publishing. You have control over everything. It's you. If it bombs, it's your fault. If it excels, it's your fault. Okay? And wow, it's got really good reviews. And again, it's a personal book too. So I was really, there's a lot of personal stuff in there about my life growing up with issues, right? Mental issues. And for all my colleagues, like Cliff and everybody else that actually just jumped in and said, wow, this is well read, well written. And here's the thing, with self-publishing, you have a stigma, okay? When you say that I've written a book, and someone will say, well, is it published? Yes. Well, who published it? Well, it's self-published. And you can see the looks on their faces. Oh, okay. It's almost like you're opening up for the main band of a rock concert. You're not all that important, okay? If you're going through a main publisher, then you are important. That's going away a lot really quickly. The last few years, there's more self-published books that are really getting good attention. But here's an example. Only did I get into chapters, Indigo and chapters in the bookshelf stores. The only way I got the self-published book in there, the only way the media, CBC even answered my calls and stuff like that, is because I had those 17 other books that were best-selling through a main publisher. So I had that advantage where if you're first starting out, you'd be like, I did a great canoe trip. I canoed across Canada. I want to write a book about it. Well, try and get a main publisher to publish that, and then trying to find the money to actually self-publish it, and then try to sell it, because you might think it's a really good book, but maybe it's not. Maybe you got your mother or your mother-in-law, whatever, to edit it, and the editing is terrible, the design is terrible, because you thought, hey, one night I can do this. I don't have to pay anybody to do this. You have to pay people to do it, okay? Sorry to say, but if you don't invest, then you won't make your money back. Anyway, going off again for the whole stigma, but that does exist. It is changing. Here's the thing though about self-publishing. It is a huge negative in one way in our world, in the outdoor world, for certain subjects that really you have to have a professional to write it, like wild edibles. Mushrooms that are not poisonous. Here's a guidebook on that. Well, if nobody checks on that, people could die. Like, oh, here's a guidebook on how to run white water. You know, they say anybody could write a book, but at the end of the day, you really need to know your stuff to actually be respected. Now, if you do write a book and the spelling's bad and the story's bad and nobody reads it, well, who cares? Like, you know, you've tried. In your mind, it was a good idea, but no harm, right? But if you write a book on something with skill set and the skill set's not there, that's not good at all. Okay, so that's why maybe the main publishers would be a good idea, because they'll check into that, because if something happens, they're liable, right? So they're going to make sure. And I've seen that in my life where, you know, my publisher will contact me and said, someone gave this book on blah, 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 blah. Do they know what they're doing? Yes. Or I would say, no, no, that sort of thing. All right, I'm blabbing again. But going back to the goods of self-publishing, there are so many solid stories out there that have not been told because those people can never find a main publisher to publish their story. Basically because the outdoor world, it's not that easy to sell. I mean, yes, you've done this amazing canoe trip, but to them, you know, it's boring. Like they want to sell, like thousands of copies. Self-publishing, you know, you don't have to sell thousands of copies. If you sell 500 copies, that's a good sell. And you could probably make your money back by selling 500 or 600 copies, where, you know, with the publisher, they've invested a lot more money and they're going to have to sell thousands of books to actually make their money back and invest back in you as well. So what are the main reasons you would actually stick with a main publisher instead of self-publish? Well, distribution. Okay, they have all connections of getting your book into bookstores. Okay, you don't. And that's what you're getting them to do, right? So media, they'll link you up to media. However, with that said, I get more media on my own because I've been doing it for years. So CBC Radio will contact me as opposed to my publisher. They won't even know how to contact my self-publishing because it's a print job done. It's not a real publisher. So you're going to have to do the legwork for media. Book signings, you're going to have to do all that if you self-publish. Whereas, you know, publisher will sign you up at Chapters or wherever to do a book signing. And also, at the end of the day, professionalism, there's still that stigma. There really is about, oh, you self-publish. Oh, also the royalties. So as a Canadian writer, I make 8% off every book that's sold. 8%. If you're lucky, you'll get 10% from your publisher, but generally it's 8%. With self-publishing, 40 to 70% I make. Think about it, okay? And I don't really have to do a lot of work, because what happens is when the book is done, they print it out and Amazon orders it. Someone buys it off Amazon. I make 40% from the wholesale, so that's profit, okay? And then if I actually buy the books, I buy them for $4.99, because that's what it costed to print one book, $4.99, and then shipping and tax, whatever. But if I go to a presentation I'm giving, and I sell that book, I'm making over 70% royalty, right? That's a lot more money. And I just get the money in my account. Well, if I go to a show, whatever, I have to get the cash, whatever. But I just go to my account and I just checked, and it's put in my account every month. Problem with Ingram, just a note, you have to wait 90 days before you get your payment. So it's 3-month periods. So for me to get my August payment, which actually was, my August payment was, I just checked, was $3,444. I won't get that until November. That's a huge disadvantage. So you're going to have to ride that wave until you get that money. Okay, so those are some disadvantages as well. So again, was it a success? Yes, emotionally it was. I wanted this book out. I don't know if a main publisher would have done it, but I did it, and it's out, and it's mine. Okay? So absolutely. Was it financially stable? Maybe. And would I do it again? I'm not entirely sure yet, because I don't want to break ties to the main publisher, because first of all, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have even had a career in writing. And I just don't want to walk away from that. And I've done a lot of books with them, and a lot of personal friends through that whole career, right? But self-publishing does have that sort of good feeling. All right, there we go. Should you self-publish your next outdoor adventure? Well, have the outdoor adventure first, write the book second, and then try to figure out how to publish it. Cheers.